Because everyone, when you're a young director, wants to fucking tear you down, and everyone wants to tell you don't know what you're doing, and everyone wants to control you. A lot of people, I never pitch to win the job. I pitch because this is the way it should be. And I'm this thing, and I win these awards, and people like me, and whatever just collapsed. And I remember feeling like everything I'd done in my life, all the confidence I built was gone. I got a lot of those validations, and then I got a lot of that validation quickly, and I felt nothing. And I think when people get lucky and they make their first or second thing and it blows up, they just think that's what it is, but it's not. I think my goal for a long time was to win awards and be known and all that shit. And that was a very young, ego-driven way to be and to exist. And it was very externally focused. And I got a lot of those validations. And then I got a lot of that validation quickly, and I felt nothing. I chased for so long. And I'm a pretty tenacious person. I'm pretty aggressive with going after things I want. And I was 27 or 28, and I just lost the DGA award for commercials for the second time. And I had put so much pressure on myself to win. I thought it would open up these other doors or whatever. You just, every time you win an award, people want to talk to you. And I was driving home the next day with my mom and my sister, and I was like, whoa, I feel a little loopy. And I was I had one drink at lunch, one mimosa, alcoholic beverage, but I was I feel I'm wasted. And I was oh, and then I felt this loop in my mind of oh, these things aren't going to happen because you didn't get this award and you didn't get this thing, so it's not going to happen for you. It's not going to happen for you. It's not going to happen for you. And suddenly I got this wave through my body, and my arms went numb, and I just basically collapsed and fainted while driving on the highway with my mom and my sister. And my mom had to help me pull over, and then we pulled over, and we were going 80 miles an hour, and then we pulled over and got to a gas station. I was oh, okay. I got out of the car, and I was I just need some water. Then I got to the gas station, and all the products and all the signs and stuff flooded me so intensely that I just then I fell in the gas station, and I got some water, and then I sat outside, and my head was just spinning. And later in the night I calmed down, went to a friend's house, and then I was could barely put my sentences together, and I was I think I might be having a stroke. Basically got diagnosed having a nervous breakdown. And I just was pushing myself so hard to achieve certain goals that I wanted that my body gave out. And my body was you're toast. And then it was I felt the whole ego that I was building for many years of I'm not my father, I'm not my sister, I'm Miles, and I'm this thing, and I'm doing well, and look at me roar, and I'm this thing, and I win these awards, and people like me, and whatever just collapsed. And I remember feeling everything I'd done in my life, all the confidence I built was gone. And I was wow, I feel really earth shattered. I couldn't really be around people in social situations. And when my ego kind of pushed so hard that my body literally gave out, that it let more room for other things to take place. And I feel I became a much more softer, intuitive person. But honestly, it really started a journey looking inward and figuring out what I felt and what I wanted. And I got off Instagram, got off Facebook. I stopped obsessing about other people's work. And I also started regularly going to therapy. And that's been the most helpful journey to become a writer that I could imagine, because it's so everything what I'm doing and when I'm writing, whether it's blocking on set or coming up with an idea or literally just writing characters or dialogue, it's what would I feel through this? What would I feel? What's interesting, about this for me? Or what's my experience with a memory? What's my experience with this kind of dynamic? And that's truly what I think storytelling is empathy like that. Or when someone tells me a part of their story and I'm like, oh, those two things you said, man, that landed for me. Those are the two things that I'm going to tell. So like when someone tells me their story and I'm translating it to a story, it's my lens that is translating it. Like I'm the only person who's going to hear that story, connect to certain things because of my experience, and translate it in some way. Someone else could tell someone's life story and tell a completely different thing. And that's happened to me. Like the script I'm working on now, someone wrote the first draft and it was very different. And the draft I wrote is very different because I connect to different things. So I guess my point is like this dissolving of the ego. And I'm not saying my ego's gone. Like me, my ego's there every fucking day, battery in the back of my fucking mind. Like, you sucked. And you're like, no. And it's like, you can't do it. You're a trash writer. And you're like, no. So like that like is always there. But then you like take a breath and you're like, okay, and then you like try and connect with something and then you like keep going. So that I'm saying that's not something that'll ever go away, but it's something you learn how to deal with. I think most people in our culture just live here, and we're so disconnected from our bodies and we're so disconnected from feeling. Like I know a journey I'm writing in one film, like I spent most of my 20s completely numb, like almost not feeling anything. I think at like 26, I started having feelings. I was so driven and so focused that like I was just like ga 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 ga. Because I remember as a kid, I was so sensitive, and when I started directing, I was so sensitive. I remember when I was like someone was trying to fuck with me when I was directing when I was like 20. I was like would go off set, and I would start crying, and I was like, oh. And I remember my dad telling me, he's like, you're too sensitive to be a director, and that like stung so bad. And I was like, I gotta be fucking tough. I gotta be tough. And so I spent the first half of my 20s building a wall and becoming tough and becoming really aggressive, because everyone, when you're a young director, wants to fucking tear you down, and everyone wants to tell you don't know what you're doing, and everyone wants to control you, and you don't really know what you're doing. And so you have to like fight that back. And then I think when I had this like, physical and emotional crash, that ego kind of broke down, and I was left with like my soul and seeing what it was connecting to. And I think that that's the way I think of my career in cinema. It's really just about intuition. And intuition is like, where is the river going? Where is the current taking me? And I'll always love this quote of like, don't swim upstream from your soul, because it's really hard. And I always love that, because when you're swimming in the direction of your soul, man, it feels good. Like when I'm writing and I'm loving what I'm writing, like, man, today was nice. Even if it's brutal and hard and I think I'm a shit writer, I still feel peace. And when I'm doing things that I don't want to be doing, and I'm telling myself and telling a story in my head, then my ego is like, yo, this is good for you because it'll help your career, and this is good for you because it'll get you money, or this is good for you because of whatever. Like I just feel internally like so conflicted. And I think that like the more as a young filmmaker you can connect to what those feelings are and what feels right to you, not what you think is right, but what you feel is right, then you can swim in whatever your direction is. And I think that like you just don't need to care what other people are doing. And I think following what other people are doing is really harmful to that. So I think when you listen to this or listen to someone else's advice, it's like your experience is entirely different. The one thing that we all have though is we all have an internal life that is reacting to the world and to work and to people and to everything. And that's the only thing you can really listen to and trust. And you have to follow what that intuition is saying to go in a way that is true to you. I guess when I look back at like my 20s, making like commercials and music videos and shorts, that I don't feel like I quite got like lucky. I think there was maybe one moment where I was like, wow, I feel kind of lucky. And that's when I got sent the Leon Bridges track. And I was like, wow, I just been researching a movie in Baltimore for 3 months. And then I lost the movie. It didn't go to me. I just researched for months, and then I came back to this company in LA who was making the film, and I was like, I feel like I've cracked it. Like I know what the film is. And they were like, we don't want that. I was like, okay. So I was really sad. And it was like my first big pitch in LA, and I was like, I'm gonna do it. And then they're like, no, we don't, that's not it at all. And so then I was feeling bummed, and I had all these people I had made connections with in Baltimore, and then that Leon track got sent to me. It was like a $20,000 budget, and I was like, trust me, like, please, this is like, I can make this video. And then I knew at that moment, I was like, this is an opportunity. If I don't absolutely nail this, it'll be a tragedy. Like, I have to put absolutely everything I can. I remember when they gave it to me, I don't think I slept more than like 4 hours for about a month until we were done, because I was like, this is a time in my life where I have to just give everything I can to this project, and then you have no regrets. Luck is not something everyone hopes to get lucky, but it's really like a preparation and opportunity combining. So, you might be training and working really hard at one thing, and someone says, hey, can you do that? And you're like, actually, that's what I've been training for. And then you go do it and you shine. So I feel like that's a moment where I felt there was luck, that I felt it was a really nice combination of preparation that I was working on for something else, and then an opportunity that came up. But I really feel like I've seen a lot of directors like kind of come and go in the last 10 years and do a thing that was everyone loved and then kind of stop, and now I'm not sure where they are. And I think why I feel lucky is I feel like I've had to really work for it. Like, I don't feel like it's been super easy. And I think that what that has done is given me the self-confidence to know that when I'm in a moment of a trough or something's not going well, I know that I can really dig myself out of it and push my career forward, because I know it's not easy. And I think when people get lucky and they make their first or second thing and it like blows up, they just think that's what it is, but it's not. Like, it's a grind. You look at like the top filmmakers in the world, and they're trying to make their films for like 7 years, So I think once you realize that the reality is it's just a grind, you take the pressure off yourself by being like, why aren't good things happening to me? And you're like, it's just not like that. It's just hard. And then you go, okay. And once you accept that, it's kind of relieving, I think. Yeah, I think my process for pitching anything, a film, commercial, a music video, is, so, the 3 films I'm writing right now have all come from my attachment to something over time. And that thing grows, and sometimes it takes years to grow and emerge of what you're connected to and why you're connected to it. In commercials and music videos, that connection has to happen fast. So when I get a treatment or a script in for a commercial or a song in, sometimes a song I play it once and I'm like, nope. And then I'm just like, and I don't like sit on it and think about it. And I'm like, if this song doesn't grab me, like, what are we doing? And with Leon, that song was already in my mind. It's like that song was already in my soul. I already had such strong connection to that song. So when I got the email, I was like, oh, like, don't screw this up. And they liked a baseball commercial I did. And I was like, why do you want me to make this music video? And they're like, oh, we loved your baseball commercial. We want him to feel really real. And I was like, whatever you want to make that connection, sure, like, that's fine. So then when you go into the treatment process, my feeling is it's about integrity, but you have to pitch the best way you think it should be. A lot of people, like, I never pitch to win the job. Like, I pitch because this is the way it should be. And then if you pick me, I have a pretty good chance I think it'll be good. And if you don't pick me, that's fine. But I really feel like in my treatment processes, I write very specifically to what I want. And so they were like, oh, we want Leon to be like a performance in this thing and blah, blah. And they start saying these things. I just like don't listen. I go, okay, well, what do I want to do? And here it is. And I think that's like with a commercial, sometimes I rewrite the entire script, or like I ask what's the key things they need in the script, and then I rewrite everything and send it back. With Leon, it was honestly like me hitting my head against the wall for like 2 or 3 days. everyone gets so stressed about like coming up with an idea, and you really got to be like, anxiety is the biggest killer of love. So if you want to love something and create something, you have to like calm your anxiety and move into inspiration and creation. And sometimes like literally you can write an idea in 5 minutes, but you might need to spend 20 hours researching and delving into something to get the inspiration for it. So yeah, that was kind of the process on that. And I think the treatment is like 90% of what the video is. It's actually very close. Yeah, to be honest, I think you should do what you want to do and not focus on what you should do, just focus on what you feel you want to do. I feel like I've spent a lot of my life doing what I should be doing. And also a lot of my life, what I think other people think I should be doing and other people's advice. And I think it's taken me a while to be like, nah, like I'm just going to do what I want to do. And it can happen really fast. Like you can make one short film and have an amazing script and then get your film made. Like that's not unlikely. And to be honest, you could have made 1,000 commercials and no short film and be less likely to make your film than the person who's made one thing. So I'm happy that I've done so much work in commercials and music videos and shorts because I have a craft level and I've learned so much. And I've shot so much, so I feel really confident in my abilities. But I think there was a quicker way to making feature films, and like I said, everyone has a different path, and I can't look back and have regrets. And as film is looking like it's pretty close to happening, and if not, there's 2 others that are kind of waiting to happen. But if you really want to go do it, you just got to go do it. Like I say, if you want to be a director, you got to go direct. There's no way around it. It's not like, oh, I should go do commercials and then come back to directing. It's like so many commercial directors can't ever make a film because no one will trust them with that. Because to make a film, you have to be a storyteller. And a lot of commercial filmmakers aren't. So that is an issue. That's where a lot of my commercial work is really focused on storytelling. So it's like even those people, but I still face the stigma. I'm like, you're not a proven storyteller. You're only a proven storyteller once you've made a movie. So it's kind of like catch-22. So like someone who's 22 getting out of college with one short film isn't much further behind me than getting their film made. And I've done like 10 years of commercials and music videos. I think on the practical side, what you got to realize is how do you make money? And you can do that any way possible. It's like you need to make a living and you need to keep your lifestyle somewhat reasonable so you don't have to make a ton of money, because money to me just equals time to do what you want. So if you make commercials, you can have enough time to go write your scripts. If you're having to work at a lower wage job that has to work all the time, you can't. And what I learned really quickly as a camera assistant was I was getting up at 5 a.m., getting the set by 6, an hour before call time, prepping the truck. Then I was just working my fucking ass off for 14 hours, cleaning the truck for an hour, driving home for an hour, 4 or 5 hours of sleep. And I'd do that for 5 days. And by the weekend, I had no brain capacity. Like my brain was like, I was like out of it. And then I was like, how am I ever going to write a script or like push my film career when I literally have no energy to do so? So then in college, what I did is I made like corporate videos for accounting firms. I made corporate videos for like call centers, like whatever, because they paid me a certain amount of money. Then I was like, okay, now for 2 weeks, I can like go work on this music video. And now I can go work on this thing. And I think that, to me, that's similar lifestyle I lead now. It's like I can go work and then do nothing else but all my creative work when I'm off. And I think that's such a gift, and I feel very lucky to be in that position. So I'm happy that I'm in this position. And I think other filmmakers might want to be in this position. Other filmmakers might not. I know some people who like trade crypto to support their film careers. Like you can do whatever you want. I like that I get to shoot and train and practice and then make a living at it. But a lot of people get stuck because they build these lifestyles where they buy everything and then they have to make more and more work to support the lifestyles, and that's like the golden handcuffs, and then that's where you like can never do what you really want to do. So I think you have to just be practical about it. You can't just be like, I'm gonna maybe be a filmmaker and like let's see how it goes. You got to be like, I gotta feed myself at the same time and have the mental energy to become a filmmaker, because it's a lot of just mental energy and love to get there.
And my dream was set on a sailing ship.
Well, I think there's this thing that I always got over. Well, I'm actually just recently getting over this thing. I always felt like I had to run really fast and really hard to do well. And then when I realized, like, if I sit and I figure out myself and I spend more time figuring out what's true to me, I can take 3 steps, and walking 3 steps will be so much more effective than running a mile, if that makes sense. So I used to just run miles and miles and miles and laps, and then my body gives out. And now I'm like, okay, let's like sit all day and then be like, yes, those 3 things. And I think like, whenever I hear like, a friend was working with Ang Lee, who I think is one of the best living directors, and he listens to something and he sits for a long time, and he's like, he says one thing, and you're like, oh, that's it. Like he takes his time and he like really considers and feels. And I think like, similar experience I've heard, like people working with Bennett Miller, it's like, I think people really got to figure out how their own internal life is working, to figure out what they want to do. And I think when you're talking about, because I really truly believe in investing money and investing things in yourself. Like I think when I take time off to write, I'm investing money into myself. I'm living without a job because I'm paying myself to write, and I didn't get paid to do a commercial for the first like 2 years of making commercials. I did them all for free because I was like, oh, the budget's $10,000. Okay, well, it's $10,000. Well, I'm not going to make any money. Okay, then the budget was $50,000. I'm like, okay, well, it seems like there's a little bit of money here, but I was like, it's not really worth it to take money off the screen. So whatever, the budgets got up to, and then for about a year, the budgets were like at $100,000, and I got one like every 4 or 5 months. I got something, so it wasn't that often. But I was like, at $100,000, I still get no money, and it's like, yeah, we still have to invest money, even if the budget's $100,000 to make something. But it's like every music video I made, I put money into, and in this film, I know I'm gonna like at a certain point be like, fuck it, I gotta pay for some shit myself. So I really believe in that. It's just like it's like you gotta do something that feels really unique to yourself. And I think what is hard with the Instagram culture is if you replicate what other people have done, you're actually worth less from a monetary standpoint than if you just did what you really wanted. Because if you do what you really want, you'll be unique to everybody else. And so then commercial companies will be like, that guy's got something, or that girl's got something. Let's have something from that. And I think what happened to me a lot of times in my first half of my 20s when I was directing commercials, and I would go to meet commercial companies, they'd be like, we don't really see you in your work. They're like, we see the Daniels as this, or we see like AG as this, and they're really like defined voices. And I was like 25, and I was like, I don't really know who I am. And they were like telling me, they're like, we don't know who you are. And I was like, man, this is hard. I don't know who I am. And then I just got to this place where I said, you know what, like, let's start tuning out what other people are doing. And now I have no idea what is me or like what is my work. I hope it's like soulful, but people look at something like, oh, that you did that. I knew you did that before I even saw who did it. Like I knew that was you. And I'm like, that's such a nice compliment, to be seen as a human being, but to be seen as something that you do, especially to be seen in a piece of commercial work, which is so hard to make it feel like your own with a billion voices. But I think the point is like that internal work leads you to being a better artist and better filmmaker. But also, if your desire is to get into commercials, it makes you a more desirable commercial director to a lot of people. So it's kind of all the same thing. You can be a better artist and a better commercial director by doing this. And I always felt, I don't know the proper quote, but it was like this meditation teacher was saying, it was like, how we know how to go to the moon, but we don't know how to listen to ourselves. It was like, we know how to do everything and go all these in crazy places as humans, but we never sit and like listen to ourselves. And I think that's really true. And I think really great artists are really in tune with themselves. And that's why the expression is so visceral and so close, because they're so in tune. And I think that's a place that I like to get closer to. And, I think that's a life journey, which is a nice way to look at things, because you never finish that journey. You're always on it,